Hey there, health coach. Are you confused about how to effectively hold your clients accountable so that they can reach their health and wellness goals? If so, then this video is for you. I'm going to share today the top 2 mistakes I see coaches making when it comes to accountability, and I'm going to give you 3 tips on what to do instead. So as a health coach, you know that accountability is a really important part of the work that we do. It's actually one of the big things that clients need and want from us. We help them follow through on the things that are most important to them. By offering accountability, we help our clients stick to their short-term intentions so that they can reach their long-term goals. So many of our clients have tried time and time again to make healthy changes on their own, and they've failed. And so they come to coaching to finally do it, to make some progress. So when we think of it this way, it's a big part of what the client is paying us for, what they value and appreciate. So I believe that accountability is one of the greatest gifts that we can offer our clients. It's also one of the key features and skills that differentiates coaching from many other helping professionals. It's a huge value add. And as I watch new coaches practice, I see a couple of common big mistakes being made. The number 1 mistake I see is that new coaches help the client develop an action step, but they stop there. They don't take it the next step further to solidify the plan with accountability measures. This is a big mistake because it misses out on an important step that will help the client be successful in completing their action steps and making changes and developing new habits. The second mistake I see coaches making around accountability is that they try to take on the accountability work for the client. For example, they'll commit to check in with the client in between sessions to make sure that the client did what they said they were going to do. This is a mistake because if the coach does all the work, the client isn't going to learn as much or be as empowered as they could be if they were responsible for their own actions. So, to avoid these mistakes, I offer 3 top tips for accountability. Number 1, be sure to co-create accountability measures together. Once you've guided your client to come up with their SMART action plan, the next step is to set the accountability for the action steps by asking your client, how will they hold themselves accountable to their action step? Some ways that your client might want to do this are to calendarize their action step by scheduling it in like an appointment and then setting up reminders. Tracking is also a big accountability measure. So how will your client track their action steps and progress so they can measure their success and report back to you at the next session? Also, you can ask your client what other supports they have in their life. Is there a person who can help hold them accountable to their action step? So tip number 2 is about how to set up accountability between you and your client. Remember, the number 1 way you as the coach hold the client accountable is to follow up at the next session. This is your main role and responsibility when it comes to accountability. But your client may ask you to check in with them in between sessions. Maybe they ask, can you send me an email partway through? Or maybe they want you to text them to see if they've completed their action steps. Just remember that the client is responsible for the accountability, not you. So do not take this on. The best way to avoid this is to again ask your client how they're going to hold themselves accountable, but do not ask, how can I help hold you accountable? If you ask that question, then your client is more than likely to ask you to take on some part of it, right? If you're asking them, how can I help? Then they're going to share something. So if the client says, maybe you could text me Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. to remind me to go to the gym. Simply shift the responsibility back to the client and say, well, how about you text me to let me know you've completed your workout for the day? And then you simply respond with a quick emoji or great job, but do not take on the responsibility for this accountability check-in. And then you can let your client know that you will be following up at the next session to see how things went. That's your part of it, right? So tip number 3 is to make sure that you do follow up at the next session. This is what we call the accountability check-in as part of your follow-up session. Since you said this is what you're going to do, it is your role and responsibility as a coach to actually do it, to follow up with them. So I see so many coaches start the session with, what's been happening since last time, or what's new and good, which are great general openers and fine as a warm welcome. But after that, we do need to get specific with the accountability check-in to find out how they did with their commitments. So being consistent and actually following up and asking your client how it went is imperative to the trust in your coaching relationship. Because you said you'd do it, you have to follow through. The accountability check-in is all about helping your client move forward toward their goals and deepen the learning for them about their own patterns, habits, and behaviors. So during the accountability check-in, you might want to ask, remind me of your action steps and tell me how you did with each one. You'll definitely want to acknowledge the client for any successes and find out what worked and contributed to the success. And also ask, what did you learn from this win? What did you learn about yourself? About what works for you? So follow up those types of questions. And then you can ask, what didn't get done, right? If anything. So find out what got in the way. What can the client learn from this experience? And ask, what might they do differently next time? But it is really important to remember that this is not the coaching session yet, right? You're still just doing an accountability check-in. So do not start coaching in depth on what didn't get done. Likely spend 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of the call on the accountability check-in, and then you're going to want to set the agenda for the session. Maybe your client wants to continue working on that outstanding topic or obstacles, but make sure you both agree to that is the agenda topic before you move into coaching. So just to recap, my top 3 tips for effective accountability in health coaching are: number 1, make sure to explore how your client will hold themselves accountable and create steps and measures. Number 2, shift the responsibility for accountability from you back onto the client. Have them send you a quick text, but don't take responsibility for holding the client accountable. And number 3, make sure to follow up at the next session and do the accountability check-in to find out how your client did with their action steps. I have a full module in my Health Coaching Essentials courses, self-study, and the full course on accountability with scripts that guide you around exactly what to say and do to be an effective accountability partner for your client. I will put the link in the description below. So I hope that's been helpful. Please post any questions or comments below around accountability, and I'd be happy to reply. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye for now.